cette, cette interprétation un petit moment. Marianne, I will give the floor to you just to say welcome to our Portuguese speaker.
Bom dia a todos, bem-vindo ao webinar Opveta Amigos. Como podem, começamos em breve e utilizamos 3 idiomas durante o seminário. Então, a interpretação está disponível em inglês, francês e português. Para selecionar seu idioma, clique no ícone Interpretação, globo ou botão Interpretação, na barra de ferramentas do Zoom, ou escolha o seu idioma preferido. Pode ser inglês, francês ou português. É tudo. Espero que está claro. Se tiverem algumas dúvidas, podem escrever um chat e estão bem-vindos a todos. Temos agora quase 100 participantes. Estamos muito contentes.
Thank you so much, Marianne. I think you can mute your mic, otherwise I hear an echo. Yes, we're several people from the TI Obvet in the same room at the moment. So welcome again to everyone. We're already more than 100 participants. Very impressive. I see you're all very motivated despite the heat, so that's very promising. So I think we can maybe jump a bit more into the topic. I will start with a short poll, very short poll to kind of understand who is in the room. You should see it appear on your screen at the moment. So several questions for you. There's 3 in total. So just the first one is, which stakeholder group do you represent? The second one is, how familiar are you with the Lobito Corridor? And the third one is, what is the biggest challenge for turning investment into local jobs for you, according to you? So yeah, feel free to select a few answers. I don't know if you can see the results appear, if you can see them. Yes, Martina is saying yes. Maybe if you look again in the chat, if you lost it, then you might see it. Otherwise, I just tell you, in terms of the stakeholders groups represented today, well, we have a lot of international organizations and development partners with us. That's not a surprise, of course. We also have the government and public sector represented with 23%. We have the private sector represented with 20%, so very good to have you with us. We also have the TVET and education sector with us, 17%, and then a few other people. Feel free to type it in the chat if you don't identify with any of these groups. Then we still see who is with us. So welcome in any case, everyone. And then how familiar are you with the Lobito Corridor? 15% say it's their first introduction. 50% know the basics, very good. Then 28% work on Lobito related initiatives, and 11% are really directly involved in Lobito projects. So quite varied in terms of knowledge of the Lobito corridor, but it's good. You should be able to follow along. We're going to share the basics with you anyway. So yes, and then regarding the biggest challenge for turning investment into local jobs, I think the biggest one so far is really, let me know, weak collaboration between training providers and industry. Well, that's exactly how the TI Obvet wants to react, right, and wants to act. We really want to here really make the link between the needs of the private sector and training skills development. So and here, of course, we're focusing on the Lobito corridor. But we have many more initiatives around Africa. If you want to know more and stay updated of our initiatives, I will post very soon the link in the chat for our newsletter. So if you haven't subscribed yet, then feel free to subscribe, then you'll be kept informed of all our latest updates. Voila, I will end the poll now. I will just then I can also switch, of course, the slides. I will go over to the agenda now. So we had the short introduction. We are now going to present very shortly the Obvet approach and also the link with the Lobito corridor. This is going to be done by Bart, our team leader. Then we're going to have François Cassen do a short introduction to the Lobito corridor in terms of the sectors predominant in the Lobito corridor. Then Project Spotlight, which is the Lobito Connect project. We have Gédéon with us, Gédéon Ngoma from Louvain Coopération. Lobito Connect is one of the grand projects that that we're following up with the TI Obvet. So yeah, looking forward to hearing more and sharing with you what they're up to over there. And then we're going to have this roundtable discussion on the Lobito corridor with four speakers a bit later on. And then followed by the Q&A and discussion. So feel free for that part to ask your questions in the chat. And we'll make sure to get you an answer to your question, and then a very short conclusion and wrap up and announcement of our next activities. Voila. So again, very nice to have you on board. If you have any question, any comment, feel free to post them in the chat, and we'll try to address them. Okay, very shortly again for the objectives of this webinar. As I said, with the Obvet, we really want to make the link between the needs of the private sector created by the investments and training provision. So here we want to highlight the importance of the Lobito corridor for everything related to jobs, investments, and skills development. We want to show as well how the Obvet approach links really vocational training with the real labor market demand that is generated by the Lobito corridor. Present then a concrete initiative from the Lobito corridor ecosystem, the Lobito Connect project, and then as well foster dialogue between public, private, and training stakeholders and development partners. So very welcome to contribute to all of that in the chat as always. And then I think now I'm going to pass the floor to Bart, our team leader. Bart, you can.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Bonjour à tous. Bon dia a todos. I will continue in English. There is translation, I understood, so you could be able to follow. It's great to have you all, 132 at this moment, so it's great success already. I will give you very briefly an idea of what this Obvet approach is about. We have to start with a global gateway and the global gateway strategy. You have here a nice quote from Ursula von der Leyen. It's about smart investments in quality infrastructure. This is the starting point, but of course in line with EU values and standards. The Global Gateway strategy is about more resilient connections with the world. Next. Okay. So important in this point is for Africa is the African-Europe investment package. It's about 150 billion euros in investments. It's about also building these more resilient connections in line, of course, with the African Union's Agenda 2063. And if you look on the map here on the side, you see there are these corridors. So it's about strategic, sustainable, and secure transport corridors, not just for transporting goods, but it's about a whole value chain, services, and jobs. One of the important parts we, of course, working on. And then also important is the Critical Raw Materials Act and the Critical Raw Materials, as it's been all over the news, that it's important that we have strong partnerships to make sure that these critical raw materials can really contribute to the green and digital transition. It's not just about infrastructure, it's also about connecting the different dots to see really actually having a broad perspective. The slide should come, but I think there's a small delay. This is a 360 approach of the EU, so it's really infrastructure in the middle, but really looking at all the other aspects who can make and have to support these infrastructure projects. And here below, you see very important for us today is the skills and education and employment and youth parts of this. Next slide. Global Gateway EU Africa investment package. We have 4 priority areas plus 1: digital, health, transport, climate and energy, and education and research. What's a bit of a transversal priority area where we see very clearly that here in this aspect, we come to our TEI OPVET. If you then go to our program, Team Europe initiative on opportunity-driven vocational education and training in Africa. Program started in 2024. It's 4 agencies working together, Enable, Expertise France, EDUFI, GIZ, and also 4 member states, Belgium, France, Finland, and Germany, as a real Team Europe. The total budget is 75 million plus 1 million extra from the Ministry of Germany. And the program is about how to make sure this OPVET will take and generated in Africa. Next slide. What is it actually about now, this OPVET, as we call it? It's a paradigm shift. We really try to change what has been done in the field of vocational education and training and skills development in the past. We look really as employment as a leading perspective. There is, of course, a very big crisis in Africa on employment, youth employment in particular. So this is really our starting point. From there, we call reverse engineer then the needs, the vocational education training that is needed to make sure that we have this concrete employment coming to a reality, starting from opportunities, coming from private sector investments, or mostly linked to the global gateway. Engaging the private sector is, of course, a very important element in this, where we have to really try to get them from the start on board. The important elements of this paradigm shift are early and strong private sector involvement. So the idea is not to have private sector involvement at the end by the employment, but really straight from the start, having these partnerships, really define where are these opportunities, where are the jobs, and from there on working to training and going really to these skills developments. Investment that provide employment, a lot of investments, of course, they don't necessarily provide employment. This is not really our target. Our target is really where we investments, where we can have employment, particular local employment. A value chain approach. Lobito Corridor is also about value chain. It's really looking beyond just the level of the companies, really looking at what is the entire ecosystem of a specific sector, and there then working on where the employments are. Very short, the key steps. First, as I mentioned before, concrete employment opportunities. Where are these employment opportunities? Define and identify them. After that, really looking at, good, the employments are and the opportunities are there. What are the human resources that are needed to, and the skills that are needed to make sure that the people have these competences to get actually into employment. But based on that, we have trainings that are very specific, really looking at the skills gap, so not general training, really focused on the job profiles that are needed. And at the end of this process, we normally have that the graduates can find decent employment as they have been trained specifically for these pre-identified needs of the private sector or other investors. What does it mean? Why is the advantage? Because there is, first of all, the private sector, as been many times said already, is that the private sector is often looking for skilled people, can't find them in the local job market, and then is forced to go to other countries often. So this will help them to find the job-ready workforce at the spot where they will have their investment. Local population, of course, they will benefit from it because they will find a job, but also they can sustain then their families. We have a special focus on youth and women, where the most stringent problems are certainly in the African context to find these jobs. And also very important for us is for the education and training sector, because they will have also new investments in their capacities, they will have better equipment, they will find also better curricula really aligned to the needs of the private sector. So at the end of the day, we have this triple win of the three components where we can really say this opportunity-driven approach will lead to people that have the capacities to make sure that the investments have the necessary workforce. This is in very short the program, and now I give the floor back to Pauline. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bart. Can you also please remute your microphone? Thank you very much for this very good introduction on the OPVED approach. Of course, if you've been joining us on our first webinars, then you might have heard this already before, but it's always good to refresh your mind, you know. So now we're going to go over to our next speaker, which is François Cassen from the TPSD facility. He's going to give us an introduction on the Lobito Corridor and how you now you see it, how to maximize the positive impact of the Lobito Corridor in the DRC. François, I give you the floor. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much, and good morning or good afternoon, everyone. So indeed, my name is François Cassen. I work for the Trade and Private Sector Development Facility that is attached to DG INPA, in particular the unit E2 in charge of investment, climate, value chains, entrepreneurship, and CRM. So next slide, please. I will give you a bit of background regarding the Lobito Corridor through the lens of a mission that we've conducted upon request from the delegation in DRC. That was a two-phase mission, with the first mission quite exploratory and the second that was more the co-design. There was a strong Team Europe spirit in it, and some coordination with different technical assistance facilities. Next slide, please. So the analysis was really to look at all the sectors that are directly and indirectly impacted by the Lobito Corridor. Of course, the main goal of the Lobito Corridor is to secure access to critical raw material, copper and cobalt. But apart from the mining sector, also the transport sector and the trade sectors are impacted directly. And some other sectors are indirectly impacted, such as industry, subcontracting, energy, and agriculture. So we'll have a dive into these sectors and subsectors, and I'll try to highlight the importance of a qualified workforce for the development of each. Next slide, please. So here the key project, the center of the project of the Lobito Corridor is the corridor itself, of course. So we have a railway that stretches from Dola,
através do Lubumbashi, Kolwezi, Luali, Luakano, Luena et até Lobito.
Différentes régions par lesquelles passe le corridor. Ici, le goulot d'étranglement.
The project is really the rehabilitation of the DRC section between Luao and Tenke. So it's a 522 kilometers section that needs to be rehabilitated, and for that there's a lot of interest on behalf of the DRC government. We have to mention that the section in Angola was refurbished like 20 years ago, 15 years ago by the Chinese, but then the concession was given to a consortium that is composed of 3 European or Western companies. Next slide, please. Just maybe before we go to the next slide, I need to mention that, of course, the transport and the logistics sectors and the boom that is expected through the Lobito Corridor will require a lot of qualifications, not only for the locomotives, the drivers, but also for the maintenance of the general infrastructure, and also for all the professions that relate to logistics and transport. So all these sectors will see a boom, and there's going to be a deficit of qualified workforce. There are currently initiatives, I believe, by the LAR consortium, so including Trafigura, Mota and Gil, and Vectoris, a Belgian company, to upskill the workforce for transport, especially railway transportation. So now here, the heart of the project is really securing access to CRM. Here on the pictures, we see the Kamoa-Kakula mine. That is a huge mine that is one of the fastest growing in the world. It produces 600,000 tons of copper per year, and it is operated by a consortium of Canadian and Chinese. The annual revenue of this mine is $3 billion. So you can imagine the size of the concession is 4 times the size of Paris. So it is a giant project. The whole thing is to, again, secure access to CRM and maybe upskill the technicians also that are working in these mines. Next slide, please. Here we discover a few pictures. The first one is the Lobito port. That will be operated, that is being operated by a European company, AGN. So the intention is really to boost international trade of CRM, but also regional trade between, especially between DRC and Angola. And here on the picture on the right, we see the Kasumbalesa border that is extremely busy with small-scale traders that cross the border with various commodities, including maize flour. So also trade is expected to boom thanks to the Lobito Corridor, and various initiatives, especially funded by the EU, aim to strengthen trade, including simplifying trade procedures, so import-export procedures. Next one, please. Here, the energy is also a sector that will be booming in order to address the energy deficit that exists in Katanga. There's a 1.3 gigawatts deficit. And for that, there are many opportunities to develop renewable energy projects, like you see on the picture on the left, with many private companies that also need upskilling and the qualified workforce, especially for the installers, but also for the maintenance and project developers. On the right-hand side, you see a picture of the Inga Dam, the huge hydropower dam that produces electricity for the national utility, the SNEL. And now we see a multiplication of PPPs between SNEL, this national utility, and the private mining. We also see a lot of partnerships between the mining companies and project developers that resell or sell the electricity that is produced, including by solar panels, as you can see on the picture on the left, which is the picture of a farm that was established by a Congolese company, Kipai. Next slide, please. Also, a major sector that is booming along with the mining industry is the subcontracting sector. The subcontracting sector is not well known, but this is all this set of businesses that provide goods and services to the mining companies. Actually, there's a boom of the subcontracting sector since the adoption of the subcontracting law by the Kabila II government. That created a lot of opportunities for small SMEs, small, medium, and enterprises from Congo, especially because there was an incentive or a local content policy that these services would be in priority provided by Congolese companies. But just to give you an anecdote, all these businesses, and now this sector represents $2 billion per year. So there was a very rapid boom of this subsector, but all this was done in a pretty messy way with business people that used to be small traders, and then they won a first contract with a mine, and then their company grew exponentially. But these entrepreneurs may lack the managerial capacities and also a qualified workforce. So here we speak of engineering services, electricity provision, catering services, all these services, also lubricants, lease of equipment, etc. So all these goods and services that are provided by local companies. So they also need hugely upskilling services. They need to have a qualified workforce. For this, we can also mention that several member states from the EU are active to upgrade the vocational educational training system, especially in Katanga and whole Walaba. I'm thinking of Enabel, especially, that has done a very successful project. Next slide, please. And now, the sector that is very close to my heart, agriculture and agribusiness. I think the opportunity that the Lobito has to promote an inclusive development and contribute to food security and include the smallholder farmers is enormous, and all will depend on the way the smallholder farmers will get connected to the processors, so the aggregators, the agribusinesses. There's an embryonic or growing agribusiness industry in DRC that mostly produces maize flour. You see that nowadays still the majority of maize flour is imported from Southern Africa, including Zambia. But due to the climate change and the El Nino phenomenon, more and more these countries from the Southern Africa, they are banning exports of maize flour for food security, for their own food security. So there's not only an opportunity to support these smallholder farmers, but also generate revenues and ensure food security in DRC itself, and possibly export to Angola, again, through the opportunities that offer the railway to support regional trade. For agriculture, definitely also vocational educational training is very much needed. There are a few growing VET centers that specialize on agribusiness and agriculture. They should be more numerous, I think, to really answer meet the demand that is growing from the Congolese population, that they understand, agriculture is not only a livelihood or a subsistence, it can also be a business. So all this could also be supported by the donors and the European partners especially. Next slide, please. And finally, of course, especially for the Congolese and many other African countries, the ultimate goal is really beneficiation. So meaning adding value instead of simply exporting the raw material. And here the Congolese, the DRC government has a vision to start processing, especially cobalt into electric vehicle batteries, premises, precursors, etc. Here we see that the industry these days is still embryonic in Katanga, but we see, that some businesses are growing in the fertilizer production or in the cement manufacturing. But also here you see on the left a picture of manufacture of copper cables. So they are, climbing up the value chain, the value addition ladder, with the ambition of starting to manufacture electric vehicle batteries. There's a very long way to go, and it also starts with upskilling the workforce, having qualified engineers and employees in the future factories. With this, I think I'm done with the presentation.
Thank you so much, François, for this very nice overview. I hope that the audience learned a lot from it. I learned a lot from it in any case, but yeah, thank you already. Just if you have any questions, I didn't see any question in the chat so far. If you do have them for François or for any of us at any moment, please don't hesitate to ask them. So if I don't see any question at the moment, well, a lot of applause. So that's already something. Probably it was also because it was very clear. So then we can go over to our next speaker, Gédéon Ngoma from the Lobito Connect project. He's a team leader there, part of Louvain Coopération. And he's going to give you a short overview of the project. So just to remind everyone, the Lobito Connect project is one of the several grant projects that we've set up with the TEI Obvet. So if you're interested in knowing more about the projects, of course, we have a lot of resources on our Capacity for Dev page. I will publish the link right after that. So Gédéon, yeah, the floor is yours. Gédéon, à toi. Je t'en prie. Just so you know, his presentation will be in French, so you might want to turn on the translation.
Merci Pauline, thanks to everyone. Comme Pauline m'a présenté tout de suite, je suis Gédéon Ngoma de Lobito Connect, chef de projet, de la part de Louvain Coopération. Dans le consortium, nous sommes avec CSR Europe et Ovation. Et donc, pour commencer, s'il te plaît, Pauline, vous pouvez commencer déjà à passer le slide. Voilà. Donc, le projet Lobito Connect est un projet qui vise à connecter les talents locaux aux opportunités de la chaîne des valeurs en République démocratique du Congo, le long du corridor de Lobito pour la partie congolaise, pour le Haut-Katanga, les provinces du Haut-Katanga et Lualaba. Next, please. Oui, quant à ce qui concerne le corridor de Lobito, il y a quelqu'un qui va parler sur cela. Vous pouvez passer à l'autre slide. Et François en a déjà parlé. Voilà. Voilà. Donc, pour le projet Lobito Connect, ça part d'un constat sur les terrains. Il y a des investissements massifs qui viennent avec le corridor de Lobito, mais il y a un défi de compétences. Le corridor de Lobito, tant dans la partie congolaise, angolaise, aux zambiennes et jusqu'ailleurs, selon les parties prenantes, crée de nouvelles opportunités économiques, mais les entreprises font face à un défi majeur. Et avec le corridor de Lobito, il y a de nouvelles opportunités dans les transports et logistiques, dans la mine industrielle comme aussi artisanale, dans l'énergie et les infrastructures, dans la sous-traitance et les services industriels. Mais malgré toutes ces opportunités, le long du corridor de Lobito, avec sa réactivation, les entreprises font face à un défi majeur, notamment lié à la main-d'œuvre qualifiée qui est locale, ce qui fait que la plupart des entreprises, donc le secteur privé dans la région, recourent jusque-là à nos jours, plus de 60% de la main-d'œuvre qualifiée tant dans ce qui est maintenance industrielle, électricité mécanique, santé, sécurité, environnement, compétences numériques et STEM, les soft skills et en tout ce qui est employabilité. Ils sont obligés donc à recourir à l'extérieur, alors que ce corridor, pour la partie où ça passe, ça devrait amener des opportunités au niveau local. Nous pouvons passer, s'il vous plaît. Alors, comment avons-nous identifié les besoins? Donc, le projet a commencé par le mapping de besoins, la cartographie des besoins du secteur privé, dont notamment les grandes entreprises, les entreprises principales, ainsi que les entreprises secondaires. Et là, nous avons commencé par les analyses des écarts de compétences, principalement avec CSR Europe et aussi Louvain Coopération. Nous avons eu les consultations avec les entreprises principales, donc tous les grands investisseurs dans les secteurs miniers, particulièrement au Congo. Nous les avons réunis à Lubumbashi il y a 2 mois. Et un mois avant cela, nous avons eu à réunir leurs sous-traitants ou des PME dans la zone. Nous avons eu aussi des échanges avec les centres de formation, car les projets visant à combler ces gaps entre la formation professionnelle et aussi et la demande des entreprises ou les besoins des entreprises, il fallait comprendre tout ce qu'il y a en termes d'écosystème local. Nous avons organisé avec Ovation de bootcamp à Colosie en marge de la Katanga business meeting, mais aussi en marge de la DRC Mining Week, nous avons organisé notre bootcamp à Lubumbashi, où nous avons eu 90 entrepreneurs présélectionnés qui seront accompagnés au projet pour être de plus en plus compétitifs dans leur offre à la demande des entreprises principales et pour les opportunités actuelles et futures le long du corridor de Lobito dans les Haut-Katanga et les Lualaba. Nous avons eu aussi les dialogues avec les parties prenantes, notamment avec l'IDAC, à marge de la DRC Mining Week, juste le lundi avant. Et là, nous avons réuni les acteurs de la société civile, les coopératives artisanales minières, les autorités administratives qui interviennent dans les ou l'autre des secteurs liés au corridor de Lobito de ces deux provinces de la RDC. Il y a eu même des délégations venues de Kinshasa. Et alors là, nous leur avons présenté les rapports préliminaires de besoins en compétences et qu'est-ce que nous comptons faire avec ce projet de Lobito Connect dans ce qui est de la Global Gateway. Nous avons recueilli leurs avis sur ce qu'ils voient autour de cela et qu'est-ce qu'ils attendent vraiment. Donc, les opportunités sont réelles, mais les entreprises disent toutes la même chose. Elles peinent jusqu'ici à trouver les compétences dont elles ont besoin localement. Alors, le projet vient pour combler ces gaps afin qu'ils trouvent qu'il est monté en puissance de compétences locales et aussi au travers de petites et moyennes entreprises locales qui sont accompagnées pour avoir des offres aux standards exigés par les secteurs privés et en étant de plus en plus compétitives, que les talents locaux soient connectés aux opportunités de la chaîne de valeur minière et connexe le long du corridor de Lobito. L'autre slide, s'il vous plaît. Le projet Lobito Connect, qu'est-ce que nous allons faire concrètement? Nous allons donc relier les investissements aux compétences locales où nous sommes en train déjà de le faire. Nous avons, si je peux dire, 3 volets dans ces projets Lobito Connect pour ces 2 ans, de janvier 2026, depuis que le projet a commencé, on avance déjà bien, jusqu'en janvier 2028. Alors là, nous allons former pour les emplois d'aujourd'hui et de demain, notamment l'adaptation des programmes de formation aux besoins du marché selon la cartographie de besoins en compétences, selon ce retour que nous avons eu du secteur privé et des communautés, les renforcements avec des centres de formation professionnels et des sociétés de placement, le développement de compétences techniques et transversales. Et concrètement, là, nous allons accompagner 200 personnes ou 200 individus à pouvoir non seulement avoir accès à la formation adéquate selon ce projet et selon le secteur privé y engagé, mais aussi ils devront être insérés, accompagnés pour leur insertion à l'emploi directement. Nous aurons aussi à soutenir des PME locales, notamment au travers de ce bootcamp de présélection que nous avons déjà organisé pour cette première phase à Kolwezi et à Lubumbashi avec Ovation, et l'accompagnement avec les opportunités économiques du corridor, notamment avec tout ce qui est engagement de secteur privé soutenu ou exécuté dans les consortiums avec CSR Europe. Et donc, nous allons vers la construction avec les secteurs privés. Comment nous le faisons? Au travers donc du secteur privé, des grandes entreprises, des petites entreprises moyennes dans la région. Ensemble avec eux, nous les impliquons dans l'identification des besoins, mais aussi dans tout ce qui est formation. En ce qui concerne la co-construction des programmes, comme dans les formations proprement dites, nous sommes avec les secteurs privés pour qu'ils soient déjà connectés et qu'il y ait cette collaboration entre les centres de formation, les entreprises de placement, les sous-traitants et les entreprises principales, ainsi que d'autres acteurs de l'écosystème, notamment publics et privés, mais aussi de différentes organisations impliquées en cela, pour que, au travers de ces investissements qui viennent et qui existe déjà avec ce corridor de Lobito. On a identifié les besoins du marché, que les compétences soient donc renforcées au niveau local pour que les emplois et des entreprises locaux puissent donc être connectés à toutes ces opportunités et qu'il y ait de moins en moins de gap entre l'offre et la demande au niveau du corridor de Lobito pour cette région de la Copper Belt, la partie congolaise. Pouvons aller au dernier slide. Voilà. Dans le projet, enfin, vise à transformer ces corridors économiques en corridors d'opportunités pour les communautés locales. Partant des investissements, nous voyons tout ce qui est infrastructure, mines logistiques, énergie, des investissements majeurs pour le corridor, en allant vers les compétences qui se développent au niveau de compétences techniques transversales grâce à la formation adaptée et les partenariats avec les entreprises pendant toutes les étapes du projet, en convergeant avec les opportunités, dont notamment l'accès à l'emploi, l'entrepreneuriat local, les chaînes de valeur locales, des opportunités réelles et durables, ce qui va conduire à une prospérité locale, des communautés plus fortes, des entreprises locales de plus en plus compétitives et une croissance inclusive pour tous. Le dernier, s'il vous plaît. Donc, Lobito Connect is about turning a railway into a path for the future. Local talent, competitive SMEs, and a responsible mining economy. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup, Gédéon. Thank you very much, Gédéon, for this very nice presentation. I think it got several reactions in the chat. Unfortunately, we're running a bit late on time, so if you don't mind, François as well had a few questions coming up. If you don't mind, we'll try to reply to you in the chat to all of those questions. And if we don't manage in the chat, then we will make sure that we address them in a bilateral discussion. Thank you again, Gédéon. Don't hesitate if you have questions for Gédéon to ask them in the chat. And then I posted as well the link to the Capacity for Deaf page on the Lobito Connect project. We also have a project brief that we developed if you want to learn more about the project specifics. So thank you again. Just also for everyone asking in the chat, yes, we will share the slides afterwards and the recording as well via email. So since you're here, it means you registered to the webinar. So we have your contact details to share those with you afterwards. All right, then I move on to our next discussion, which is a roundtable discussion with 4 speakers on the Lobito Corridor. We have Eric Luamba Mayanga, who is the chairman of the board for the Entreprise Agro-Industrielle du Congo. We have Anthony Kabage, who's president of the Zambian Chambers of Commerce and Business Association Zfil Mining. From Zambia, we have Manuel Mbangui from the INEFOP. He's the general director of INEFOP, which is the National Institution of Vocational Training and Employment in Angola. And we have Angela Mauludito, who is a youth representative, part of the youth sounding board in the DRC. Without further ado, I give the floor to my colleague Martina, who will moderate this insightful discussion. Go ahead, Martina.
Thanks, Pauline, and a very warm welcome to everyone, TI Opvet partners, friends, and of course our 4 speakers. Thanks for having made up the time to share your perspective on Lobito question. And I would like to start with Eric. As Eric, you also have quite a almost scientific background on Lobito questions. So from your point of view, is it realistic today to really develop cross-border Lobito value chains? Or is it rather still a competition that would undermine the integration? What is your stake on that, please, Eric?
Si, c'est tout le monde. Donc, je pense que on a suivi des présentations très pertinentes et que beaucoup de choses ont été déjà dites. Et alors, donc, moi, je vais juste aller tout droit à la question, c'est que, effectivement, je pense que quand vous regardez les différents pays qui sont dans ces corridors-là, l'Angola, prenez la Zambie et les Congo notamment, vous allez vous rendre compte que c'est un peuple, ce sont des populations qui ont la même culture. Qui ont la même culture et ils ont presque les mêmes habitudes aussi. Les habitudes, aussi bien alimentaires, les habitudes de manière générale, et ils sont déjà en train de changer, surtout la Zambie et les Congos. Et donc, la Zambie et les Congos, quand vous regardez en ce qui concerne mon secteur, les secteurs agricoles, les Congos dépendent beaucoup de la Zambie en approvisionnement en produits alimentaires et produits agricoles de manière générale. Et il y a un grand échange, un échange important qui s'est fait entre les différents pays, donc la Zambie et les Congos, dans une certaine mesure l'Angola, mais surtout la Zambie et le Congo. Donc ça sera une opportunité. Le Lobito Corridor ne peut pas rester juste les infrastructures euh, ferroviaires, des infrastructures de transport pour servir à évacuer les produits qui ont été extraits. Et ça sera reproduire les modèles anciens qui ne va pas fonctionner. Il faut peut-être qu'on puisse aujourd'hui considérer le Lobito Corridor dans un contexte global pour que ça soit un écosystème complet, un levier de transformation économique de la région qui pourrait exister même après que l'extraction de minerais sera, comment on appelle ça, sera finie. Alors pour cela, il y a plusieurs domaines de compétences parce que les déficits est là. Et il y a plusieurs domaines aussi d'échange en termes de, parce que pour revenir justement à l'esprit de Lobito Connect et à l'esprit des Global Gateway et de la coopération, il y a nécessité justement de réfléchir globalement sur quels sont les leviers, quels sont les piliers sur lesquels cette coopération transfrontalière devrait reposer. Mais moi, je pense déjà à à l'éducation, parce que l'homme, c'est celui qui est le plus important, l'éducation, mais l'éducation en quoi? L'éducation en méthode moderne, en technologie moderne de production agricole notamment, et aussi, et je pense aussi à l'éducation dans les domaines de l'utilisation des engins, parce il faut mécaniser, si c'est l'agriculture ou l'agro-industrie, il faut des techniciens, une formation technique qui ne pourra pas être une formation essentiellement académique, mais une formation qui est ciblée, qui est axée justement sur des métiers bien définis dans la chaîne de production agro-industrielle. Mais à cela, il faut aussi penser à des techniques du genre irrigation. C'est très important. Comment est-ce qu'on peut irriguer pour bénéficier justement de la possibilité donc de cultiver même à contre-saison, mais comment est-ce qu'il faut aussi penser à faire penser un autre élément, c'est les infrastructures agricoles, agro-industrielles, les routes. Lobito se met de faire d'accord, mais il faut qu'il y ait une sorte de maillage des routes et des dessertes agricoles qui font en fait une sorte de mapping ou il y a des jonctions avec les chemins de fer qui sont là-bas pour que sur le même rail où passera les minéraux, passent aussi les produits agricoles, soit entre le pays, soit aussi à l'export. Parce que, en fait, en réalité, il y a un grand problème d'infrastructure. Les infrastructures et l'éducation, pour nous, ce sont les piliers le plus essentiels. Alors, les infrastructures, non seulement pour des transports, mais les infrastructures pour conserver les produits agricoles. Parce qu'il y a beaucoup de pertes post-récolte, mais les infrastructures pour justement des stockages les infrastructures, toutes les infrastructures liées, donc notamment pour la conservation, les stockages et toutes les infrastructures, et la numérisation même du secteur pour essayer de profiter justement de l'avantage de numérisation. Bref, pour être plus simple, je suis en train de vouloir dire que le Lobito Corridor devrait être un levier de transformation dans toute la région, mais on doit toujours être axé sur l'idée de durabilité, une transformation durable. Si on fait des infrastructures, si on forme l'homme, quand il est formé en technologie moderne, il va rester même après les infrastructures. N'est pas limité. L'erreur consisterait à limiter le Lobito Corridor uniquement aux infrastructures ferroviaires, aux infrastructures de transport. Voilà, résumé. Donc, ce que je peux dire à ces stades, il est temps que peut-être que les collègues puissent évoluer, mais il y a beaucoup d'informations qui peuvent être données dans les cadres de partenariats à soumettre. Mais un autre élément que j'ai failli oublier, c'est trouver des financements, parce que le secteur qui est le nôtre, l'agro-industrie, nécessite des financements spécifiques. La République démocratique du Congo, par exemple, il n'y a aucune banque de crédit agricole. Une banque, parce que l'agriculture, quand aujourd'hui on prend un crédit, on doit avoir un grand délai de grâce, parce que l'agriculture, c'est pas, on prend les crédits les premiers du mois et on a les résultats 30 jours après. Il faut qu'il y ait effectivement des systèmes financiers et un dispositif financier qui soit adapté, compatible avec le développement de l'agriculture. Donc, où vous prenez de l'argent dans une banque, on vous demande que vous avez, par exemple, 2 ans de délai de grâce et qui vous remboursez après que vous ayez les récoltes. Ça, c'est aussi un élément qui fait que finalement, on n'a pas beaucoup de champions dans les secteurs agricole parce qu'on n'a pas de financements ou des dispositifs de financement qui soient adéquats. Alors, la RDC, dans tout ce corridor-là, la RDC se présente comme étant d'abord non seulement la région ou le pays qui a beaucoup de population, mais aussi par conséquent qui a une demande très importante. Et donc, ça se présente. Et puis, l'avantage de la RDC, c'est pas un pays désertique. Il y a beaucoup de terres arables. Il y a beaucoup justement de populations. Ça pourrait être une grande opportunité parce que les populations de la RDC à elles seules, c'est plus de 100 millions d'habitants. Alors, 100 millions d'habitants avec un déficit important en termes de demande, ou plutôt de produits locaux. Donc, c'est une opportunité aussi pour les autres. Maintenant, après, il faut uniformiser les standards, uniformiser donc les pratiques douanières, fait créer par exemple ce qu'on appelle One Stop Border Post, ça signifie un poste douanier à arrêt unique pour éviter justement qu'il y ait beaucoup de problèmes dans les frontières à Kasumbalesa ou du côté de l'Angola, que toutes les infrastructures de douane soient dans dans un même, comment on appelle ça, dans un même endroit pour permettre à ce que les échanges d'informations, il n'y ait pas beaucoup de temps d'arrêt, qu'il y ait aussi les transferts d'informations, uniformiser justement des logiciels informatiques pour que les transferts d'informations ou des documents puissent être plus rapides. Voilà ce que je peux dire à ce stade.
Thanks so much for this very comprehensive and holistic view. I have a very small and very concrete question for a short answer, maybe from your background in the agribusiness. Do you find local trained staff, or how does this work today? Just a very short impression, very practical, before I move on to the next speaker.
Je pense qu'on a un grand déficit, je l'ai dit, il y a un grand déficit en termes des techniques, des technologies et des techniques modernes, d'analyse même des laboratoires pour analyser. Parce que l'agriculture, c'est justement analyser les sols. Ça, c'est très important, mais trouver aussi des gens qui peuvent développer des techniques. Mais il y a quelque chose que j'ai oublié. En RDC, par exemple, je ne suis pas sûr si en Zambie il y en a, on n'a pas une industrie qui produit les intrants agricoles, les semences, ainsi que les fertilisants, donc les fertilisants de manière générale, qui sont importés parfois de la Russie, parfois c'est pas de l'Arabie Saoudite, pas de l'Arabie Saoudite, Dubaï ou d'autres pays, alors qu'en réalité, on pouvait avoir dans la région avoir une possibilité d'avoir une industrie qui produit les intrants agricoles, donc dans la région. Et donc, au-delà de la production des intrants, pour revenir aux compétences, il y a un grand problème de compétences. On a besoin de l'utilisation, la mécanisation agricole peut permettre à ce qu'on puisse augmenter la production. Mais il faut qu'il y ait des formations, pas académiques, mais des formations techniques, même courte durée. Des courtes durées, des formations d'utilisation des engins, utilisation de moissonneuses, utilisation comment on appelle ça, les dispositifs de conserver les aliments, comment conserver les aliments, comment est-ce qu'il faut utiliser l'énergie solaire, installer ces matériels, comment est-ce qu'il faudrait numériser, relever les températures, analyser numériquement les sols, avoir des technologies pour analyser les sols, parce qu'en principe, si les sols sont bien analysés, si les semences sont bien adaptées, les restes, ça sera les suivis. Même des mécanismes de suivi et évaluation des températures, des climats. On a besoin de tous ces différentes techniques pour être sûr qu'on pourrait s'approprier. Et ces techniques-là, si on les met dans les hommes, même quand on n'aura plus de minéraux, ils vont continuer à exploiter ça. La chose la plus importante, c'est que les corridors de Lobito, euh, bien sûr, vu du fait de minier, c'est que ça va permettre à ce que les minéraux soient extraits et puis évacués. Mais les populations elles-mêmes de l'Afrique ne consomment pas ces minéraux. Même si après il y a des idées de batterie et tout ça, ça c'est encore des idées. Nous ne consommons pas ça. Nous consommons les produits agricoles et ça, c'est très important. Maintenant, nous consommons ça parfois sur des sols qui sont expropriés. Les miniers viennent, ils prennent les terres et parce qu'il y a des minéraux, alors les populations restent. On prend l'air à terre, on prend l'air à forêt, et on pollue les rivières. Non, je pense qu'on devrait raisonner. Les corridors de Ligoto, c'est l'occasion pour que les gens puissent se mettre à regarder la logique globale. Quel est le contenu local? Qu'est-ce que la population va rester après les mines? C'est ça la question. Et maintenant, moi, je pense que ce que la population peut garder, c'est l'homme, la formation. Si dans la tête, ce qu'on a dans la tête ne peut pas terminer parce qu'on peut aussi les transmettre dans nos générations. Et donc, maintenant, ce que nous devons être dans la tête, ça ne doit pas être des théories, ça doit être des pratiques, des nouvelles habitudes, des pratiques, des infrastructures. Et c'est ça qui doit rester. Et donc, tout raisonnement autour des corridors doit vraiment avoir un package à côté des contenus locaux qui intègre justement la transformation de paradigme, les transformations de mentalité des gens, les transformations donc des techniques, et
Yes.
tout ceci pour que nous puissions être sûrs que on est prêt de vivre même après les minéraux, même après l'exploitation des minéraux.
Thank you, Eric. Very good. I find this very interesting that you touch upon many topics also coming from the mining sector. This leads me to Anthony. I would like to remind you on shorter answers a little bit so everyone can speak, and especially we want to involve the audience after. So let's hope we will have time for a little discussion. Thanks so much. I hand over to Anthony, and I mean the mining companies, from the perspective of the companies, maybe you can share a bit what is the trend, what are main barriers to develop processing activities within corridor countries. So the floor is yours, Anthony.
Thank you, moderator and distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Let me speak candidly from the private sector perspective. The Lobito Corridor presents a transformative opportunity for sure, but mining companies would face three critical barriers to developing processing activities within the corridor, and I'll speak specifically for Zambia. First, let's talk about regulatory inconsistency. We operate across 3 countries with different customs regimes, tariff structures, and technical standards. Lack of regulatory harmonization may undermine the business case for establishing processing facilities because we cannot plan with certainty across the borders. Secondly, moderator, there is a financing gap. Developing processing facilities requires a fundamentally different financial calculus altogether, as it is capital intensive. Local financial institutions may not absorb the risk, and mining companies may have to seek offshore funding. But sovereign risk perceptions and currency volatility lead to prohibitive, expensive capital. I'll go to a third one, moderator, which is the energy reliability. Energy is a huge enabler, as we all know, and has capacity to slow down the mining industry and the Lobito Corridor with it. So without reliable power, the corridor risks becoming merely an extraction pathway for raw materials, rather than a catalyst for local economic growth, which we intend it to be. As you know, processing requires baseload power. Processing plants can only be built where there is baseload power and not intermittent power supply. Also, Eric mentioned something, that's the previous speaker, about agri-business. The same logistics that would move processed minerals could move processed agricultural goods like cereals, soybeans, horticulture. But agro-processing faces the same energy and infrastructure constraints. So in short, moderator, the bottom line is, without addressing these barriers, the Lobito Corridor will not deliver on its promise of industrialization and job creation. Thank you, moderator.
Thanks so much, Anthony. Maybe given these challenges, can you give us a short note about the skills and HR dimension for the mining sector? We also work together. Anthony is, and I didn't say this when introducing, a member of our private sector advisory board of the TI OPVET. So a very valuable member. And we are also working together in a grant project. So maybe you can give again, very short view of the HR component in the mining sector we learned a lot already, but this would be very interesting, I guess.
Thank you, moderator. The question is not whether the private sector should engage in skills development, but how we can be motivated to do more. Let me quickly give you 4 answers. First one is about partnership that work. Okay, in Zambia at the moment, we have TAVET working with Zambia Chamber of Mines on apprenticeships, internships, industrial attachments. Also, the newly established mining sector skills body is also chaired by the Zambia Chamber of Mines. Now bridges industry, government, and training providers. So you can see that partnership. This is the type of framework we need, but it must be put into full implementation. That is what the private sector needs in terms of partnership. And secondly, moderator, there is need for incentives that make business sense. The skills development levy in Zambia at the moment, 0.5% of the payroll is corrected. We need these funds channeled effectively into demand-driven training. Mandatory local content requirements at the moment. There's a local content implementation I heard from my colleague. They talked about it. Now require mining companies to allocate minimum of 0.05% of annual procurement expenditure to supply development, including training. This is a start, but private sector needs tax incentives that reward companies investing in accredited training programs. And thirdly, moderator, we need training models that deliver. Let me share what Zfield Mining is doing. That's my company. We are a partner in a work-based vocational training project in heavy equipment management. Our model bridges 4 critical actors. The mines defining demand, the OEMs providing latest technology, TAVET delivering training, and chambers of commerce. which look at the policy advocacy and the polling sector players. So this is a dual vet model combining classroom instruction with hands-on industry experience. We are looking forward to producing industry-ready graduates, not just certificate holders. Fourth and the last one, moderator, success triggers investment. When companies see graduates who can operate and maintain heavy equipment from day one, they invest more. When TVET systems cannot produce enough qualified technicians, investment stalls. It is that simple, moderator. And in conclusion, I would want to say that policymakers must engage the private sector as partners, not just taxpayers. We should also leverage the skills development levy effectively. Let's create tax incentives for accredited training and recognize that when we produce industry-ready graduates, we unlock private sector investment, not just in mining, but in agro-business, construction, logistics across the entire Lobito Corridor. I thank you, moderator.
Thank you, Anthony. Very interesting, and I like the the message training models should deliver. This is what we try with the opportunity-driven approach, of course. And I guess this is also the main objective of the INEFOP, Manuel Mbangui. So I would like to hear from you to what extent you do recognize the challenges mentioned by Anthony, and what are the key challenges to your organization in Angola in the Lobito context? Manuel, please.
Obrigado. I will speak in Portuguese. Antes de mais, saudar vivamente a iniciativa e aqui pedir à organização que a questão da inclusão do gênero é relevante, é estratégico, é decisivo. Estamos num painel de 4 com uma única mulher e ainda por cima a última a falar. Seria bom que, se pudessem, eu passaria para a senhora para ver o equilíbrio do gênero e respeito às senhoras. Se for o entendimento, passava. Aguardo a vossa resposta.
Eh bien, alors je parlerai du sujet qui m'incombe.
Sorry, I was muted and
Oui, excusez-moi, j'avais le micro coupé, mais oui, je pensais garder le meilleur pour la fin, mais effectivement, pas de problème, je peux donner la parole à Angela immédiatement. Angela, nous allons donc poursuivre avec vous. Et c'est effectivement vrai qu'il y a peu de femmes. Merci.
We hear a lot about opportunities, and I think also, Manuel, so his organization tries to train people for having them into jobs and employment. And I would like to hear from you if you see real job opportunities emerging from these Lobito dynamics. Yes, how you perceive it as a representative from the Youth Sounding Board, but also just individually.
En tout cas, merci beaucoup pour la parole. Merci, je salue aussi l'initiative. Tout ce qui a été fait et tout ce qui s'est fait, vraiment, on voit qu'il y a une réelle intention d'intégrer la jeunesse dans la chaîne de valeur du corridor. Et si je dois répondre, oui, les projets du corridor peuvent créer de l'emploi comme direct et indirect pour la jeunesse si les offres de formation et des financements des jeunes sont renforcées. Donc, on a besoin de plus d'offres et ces offres doivent être en aligné avec les besoins des entreprises. Et après ces formations doivent être certifiées. Après ces formations, la jeunesse doit sortir avec des certificats. Et après, en tout cas, moi, je peux saluer cette initiative. Elle est encourageante et il faut vraiment pousser la jeunesse dans tout ça. Merci.
That's very good to hear. So it's very important to get the voice if all these developments also reach the local population and especially women. For engaging youth also in decision making and design, how can we get there? What does a meaningful youth participation, also when in the governance of the corridor mean for you? What can be improved, Angela?
Pour une meilleure participation de la jeunesse, il faut vraiment un mécanisme de dialogue. Il faut intégrer la jeunesse dans les prises de décision, les importantes prises de décision. Il faut consulter la jeunesse et lui accorder une voix. Il faut des forums, des comités consultatifs et les intégrer, leur demander leur avis par rapport à leurs problèmes. Parce que vous savez que la jeunesse, nous affrontons des choses vraiment plus différentes. On a besoin que votre solution puisse être adaptée à nos problèmes. Voilà. Il faut vraiment consulter la jeunesse.
Thanks so much. And this is what we like to do now today and in the future, really have more young people, more women, and really, invite you be active. Thanks a lot. Much appreciated. Back to Manuel. So if you would like to share your challenges and how you can, with your organization, help the labor market integration to, get some job matches. Thanks.
Thank you, Martina. Bem, em relação aos desafios, dizer que vou aproveitar aqui uma deixa do Eric, que referia basicamente
Je voudrais rebondir sur ce que Eric a dit.
e dizer
Il
que
a
historicamente
parlé des populations qui sont assez similaires. Historiquement, nous avons toujours été une même population et voilà pourquoi le corridor est un défi très important que nous avons
não se
lorsque nous
pode
parlons de
usar
développement.
o corredor como um instrumento de mera integração ou de uma
Et le
oportunidade apenas
corridor ne
para
peut pas être
aumentar
vu ou perçu comme intégration
as
ou
exportações.
opportunité
Na
pour
verdade, o
augmenter
corredor
les
para
exports, par
Angola
exemple.
representa
Euh,
uma oportunidade de
Au fait,
desenvolvimento
pour
e a
l'Angola,
mudança
le
de grandes
corridor se
desafios
veut plus un
quanto à
développement important,
implementação do
plus
corredor é
essentiel.
fazer essa
Maintenant, le
alteração
défi
de uma
maintenant étant
abordagem
comment faire une bonne
recente
mise en
que
œuvre de ce
refere-se à
corridor. Et
infraestrutura
ceci passe par le
física
changement de notre approche.
para
Nous devons prendre en compte
efetivamente
l'infrastructure,
termos
bien
aqui a
sûr.
integração das pessoas, tá? E aqui
Et
o
peut-être nous
vídeo
pouvons nous centrer sur les
domínio da
populations
agricultura,
plus maintenant.
domínio da
Et nous avons
mineração,
entendu
a grande
parler de
preocupação de
l'agriculture,
como
de l'activité minière et
as
bien
suas
d'autres
necessidades de mão
industries.
de obra. E aqui ligando
Mais
aqui
également,
que
en ce
a
qui
Angela
concerne
referiu,
le travail
existe
et la
aqui uma
force de
grande
travail,
expectativa
il
dos
faut
jovens
prendre en
em
compte cette
relação ao
dimension.
corredor. E aqui o INEFOP
Et comme Angela l'a
bateu
dit, les
é
attentes
exatamente como
vis-à-vis la jeunesse
conciliar
pour ce
as
corridor.
grandes
Notre rôle
expectativas reais
ici
dos
pour
empregadores
notre
e as
institution
expectativas que
nationale pour
também
la
são reais
formation,
das
c'est
próprios jovens
justement
que olham para o corredor como
de
uma
être à
oportunidade
l'auteur des
de
attentes de
inserção
la
no mercado de
jeunesse.
trabalho.
Pourquoi? Parce que vous voyez le
Recorrendo
corridor
aqui
comme
a alguns dados
une
históricos, o
opportunité
governo
d'emploi
Lobito,
pour
no
la
auge
recherche,
da sua
le marché.
implementação, chegou a ser
Et
uma entidade que
Le
mais
corridor
empregou em
Lobito,
Angola na altura, perto
pendant sa
de
première phase,
13, 14
était en
mil
fait
trabalhadores
l'entité qui a
efetivamente no
euh,
corredor do Lobito. Isso
déployé
mostra o
près
grande
de 30
potencial,
000
o grande
travailleurs
desafio
dans le
que temos
corridor.
hoje a
Cela
nível
veut
da nossa
dire
legislação
que
nacional,
qu'il a un fort potentiel, mais également un écart lorsqu'on parle de formation professionnelle. L'Angola, aujourd'hui, compte 164 centres VT administrés sur 360 spécialités au niveau national. Et ici, je parle uniquement du réseau public qui est également géré par une FOP. Notre
desde a formação
structure
básica até a formação tecnológica. E a
vise
nível
à
da
fournir
formação
une
tecnológica,
éducation
nós estamos a falar de
technologique, mais
centros
également
que
une éducation
atuam
holistique.
hoje
Et
pontualmente na zona
sur ce point,
de Angola, isso para permitir
envisage
a
des
pluralidade das
centres
competências da
hautement
mão de obra
qualifiés
na região,
qui,
atuam no
qui
nível
vont
5 do
apporter
Sistema
les
Nacional de
bonnes
Qualificação,
capacités pour la
o que
région en
permite
Angola. Mais également,
desenvolvimento dessa
nous
área
avons
trabalha no
le schéma de
desenvolvimento
qualification
técnico como uma
nationale
parte muito grande
qui
da
permet
sua qualidade de
aux
remuneração.
professionnels de
E para o
travailler en tant
corredor do Lobito,
qu'ingénieurs et avoir un plus fort impact dans la
temos
région.
um centro do nível
Maintenant, pour le corridor
5 no
Lobito,
caso 5
nous
de
avons
Wambo,
également un centre de niveau
exatamente
5 à Wambo.
no meio do trajeto do corredor. Temos feito alguns
Et il
lotamentos
se trouve au milieu du corridor.
ao longo da linha
Et
para ver
nous avons
as
également fait
necessidades
la
de formação.
cartographie
Temos mapeado
des besoins
dados
pour voir quels sont
o
les vrais
potencial e as
besoins
necessidades
en matière de
formativas
formation.
daquela
Nous
região,
essayons juste de
de tal
faire
sorte que
collecte des données quant aux potentiels
o
besoins dans
desafio
la
do
région. Nous allons
ensino
bien
da
au-delà de ça.
formação na área agrícola, nós iniciamos
Par
já a
ailleurs,
sua
en ce qui concerne
qualificação no
l'agriculture,
nível da
nous avons
mecanização,
maintenant des cours
entendemos
de
que
formation pour
para
la
além
mécanisation.
entre
Parce que nous
a
estimons
atividade que exercemos hoje e o aumento da
que ce
produtividade
que nous
da
faisons
mão de obra
aujourd'hui
para tirar
peut
mais vantagem de todos os escalões
augmenter la
econômicos.
production, la
Por isso que hoje
productivité
começamos
demain.
um
Et
conjunto
ce
de
n'est
formações
qu'en
na área de
travaillant
especialização
avec les
agrícola
ressources que
também
nous avons
a
aujourd'hui que
nível
nous
de
pouvons
estudo.
avancer. Voilà pourquoi
Temos
nous
as
avons
escolas
commencé à
duais de
créer ces sessions
pós-graduação,
de
que isto são
formation
modelos de formação
sur,
ministrados nas zonas
sur
rurais como
les
agrícolas ou
différentes
área da
façons
agricultura.
d'utiliser les
Temos
engins,
também
les
universidades
machines dans les
públicas
zones
nessa área,
rurales
com
et toutes les
participação de
informations afférentes à
fundos de
l'agriculture.
apoio ao desenvolvimento, no caso concreto,
Et
o
c'est avec
FADA,
l'aide
o Fundo de Apoio ao
des
Desenvolvimento
fonds
Agrário de Angola, existe um fundo em
tels que
Angola
le
para
FADA,
interatividade
à
agrícola,
savoir
nós,
le
enquanto
fonds d'appui
instituição
pour les
responsável pela
objectifs en
formação,
matière d'agriculture.
qualificamos
Et nous, en
e
tant
essa
qu'institution
instituição apoia os
pour
agricultores,
la
tanto os
formation
agricultores,
et
compradores,
l'employabilité, nous essayons
e para
d'aider
aumentar a
les
produção. A
agriculteurs de
nível
petite taille
do
avec des
corredor já
tracteurs,
trabalhamos em
des engins
sequência, porque o
pour
corredor,
augmenter la
na sua
productivité.
essência, ele
Au niveau du
integra a
corridor,
província
nous travaillons
mais
déjà
de
dans la Provence
6
car
províncias, integram a província
nous
de
nous
Benguela,
avons en
a
total 6
província de
provinces
Wambo, a
intégrées,
província
Bengala,
do Bié,
Duambo,
a província do Mochico, a
Bié,
província do Mochico Leste e uma parte
Mushiko
da Lunda Sul, zona
et les
oeste
zones
marginal.
est-ouest
E são
et
essas
Lunda,
províncias que eles intervêm
Lundasso.
diretamente. Então,
Donc
procuramos
voilà les provinces
atender ao longo de toda a
impliquées.
região.
Nous
Outro
essayons
aspecto relevante
de
a
couvrir
nível
la
da
région.
implementação do corredor e os principais
Et une autre
fatores de
dimension importante à
desenvolvimento.
prendre
Nós
en
não
compte
estamos
pour
a
la
olhar
mise en
apenas,
œuvre.
aliás, o nosso foco aqui é preciso partilhar, não está na formação
Et notre
acadêmica, a
accent
nossa formação é
va au-delà de la
profissional.
formation académique.
Nossos currículos
Nous
estão
souhaitons
adaptados
vraiment
para que
fournir
tenhamos 80, de 70 a
des
80%
formations
de prática, que é a
professionnelles,
diferença a nível de
17 à
componentes teóricas.
20%
Há hoje um investimento
aujourd'hui
forte, isso
et,
um pouco da
et
exportação
pratique
aos
le reste
empresários
théorie.
para
Donc
qualificações
nous
fundamentais,
allons
ou seja, habilidades
nous
critiques,
centrer
habilidades
sur
de
nos
formação de serviço.
entrepreneurs de façon à ce
Se
qu'ils
eu
puissent
tivesse que listar aqui
couvrir tous les
principais
besoins
áreas,
nécessaires dans
olhando para
l'industrie.
o corredor,
Alors,
as
je
principais áreas de
vais vous
formação que nós
partager
mapeamos, nós
les
temos desde a área
principales
de
zones de formation
transporte,
intégrées dans notre cartographie,
é uma das áreas
à
que
savoir la
temos
logistique,
grande déficit de
le
formação, estamos
transport.
a reformular toda a
Nous
nossa
sommes
oferta
toujours
para
en
atender nesse
retard sur
momento.
ces
Também
dimensions
estamos a
et nous devons
trabalhar a nível das
retravailler notre
energias
proposition pour
renováveis,
vraiment couvrir ces segments.
ao nível da
Les
mecanização
renouvelables
aqui agrícola, falamos da mecanização agrícola, mas também
et
estamos a falar
pour
da agribusiness.
l'équipement d'agriculture, mais pour l'agroalimentaire, je répète, c'est un souci au niveau national. Nous n'avons pas vraiment les bons outils pour profiter de ces dimensions et malheureusement, nous n'avons pas le temps de discuter sur ce point pleinement. Mais lorsque j'écoutais mes collègues, pendant cette table ronde, je me suis rendu compte que c'est un point de préoccupation qui mérite notre attention de façon collective. Et je pense que nous avons les chaînes de valeur internationales et sur cette dernière, nous devons nous centrer sur les pays qui font partie du corridor et pour libérer ces chaînes de valeur. Nous devons essayer de trouver un équilibre de façon à ce que on ne parle que d'extraction, pour qu'on puisse avoir une vision holistique, pour qu'on puisse avoir un hub centré sur le développement des populations qui vont apporter une valeur à la chaîne de valeur en général. Et je finis sur ce. Nous avons le projet avec l'appui de l'Union européenne. Nous avons également un autre projet qui s'appelle Prospera sur les différentes chaînes de valeur. Nous avons également la formation professionnelle avec le ministère de l'Éducation, les partenaires sociaux, les partenaires de développement. Nous avons rencontré les membres de l'AIOP avec la mise en œuvre de UNIFOP. On parle de 250 millions de dollars. C'est quelque chose qui sera très important pour le corridor. Merci. Merci, désolé de vous interrompre. J'appréciais vraiment le partage de tous les défis, mais également la vision, les opportunités.
Thanks a lot for sharing this. I would like to shortly highlight the importance of the private sector engagement in training. As I see a question by François Cazin in the chat asking about this element. So how do you think that public policies and maybe in a FOP or it can be to all the speakers are already effectively support this cooperation, this dynamic between private sector and the public institutions? Very short, please, because we do have only very few minutes, so maybe in one sentence.
Bem, o caminho é para ir se fazendo. Não está completamente consolidado, mas o diálogo público-privado no domínio da formação profissional existem bases e acreditamos que esses fóruns poderão ajudar a fortalecer esse caminho.
Okay, thanks so much. Is there any other contribution answer at this moment, or can we check maybe if there is any other question in the chat? Otherwise, I thank you very much. It was very, very valuable insights from the different perspectives, and I think this is what we need, the view of those people who actively work on the Lobito Corridor development. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Martina. Thank you to all our dear panelists for contributing today. It was very interesting. I think it was very much appreciated by the audience as well. See a lot of applause from the audience. Just before finishing up, so don't leave all of us right away. Just a few minutes left. Do we still have time to give a few takeaways? Otherwise, we can also send the few takeaways per email after that, and then also replying to the questions. The questions that were asked in the chat and that were left unanswered. Some of them were already answered. Bart, is that okay for you? Or do you still want to give a few words?
I will just say very shortly, I think we had a very rich debate and we're not going to take what's been said to repeat it. But some of the things that really was a surprise for me, a really good surprise. Okay, Lobito, it has enormous potential. But these three countries who have quite a history, they find themselves as we are same people, we have the same culture, we have the same attitudes. So we are actually, first, it won't be so difficult to work together. So this is really something that I learned today. The other things is potential. Yes, there is potential, not also in critical raw materials and minerals in general, but also in agriculture. And there is a lot of potential in this interregional trade. So Lobito, it could really be a vector of developing this trade where there is indeed a lack of transport means, lack of roads, a lack of accessibility, and also the possibility of having these entrepreneurs making use of this Lobito corridor as a whole ecosystem of economy. But what is missing is, what I understood clearly is investments. We talk a lot about Lobito investments, but the investments still, a lot of them have to come, and access to finance. There is also a problem with cross-border cooperation, how you do it. Regulations are between the countries not harmonized, so that's a problem. And of course, education. There is an enormous youth potential, and I very much like what Angela said about really just not help us and talk about us, really have a dialogue with us. This is very important. At the end of the day, this is really employment, and there is an enormous potential of youth employment in these three countries. But really, the young people have to be sitting on the table together with the other stakeholders. So there is an important work to do, I think, from our side as well. But Lobito, a lot of potential, but don't take it for granted. And we really have to make it work. And you only do it if we really have a very broad dialogue, public actors, private actors, youth investors, people working in the agricultural sector, other sectors. So really, this is where it could be possible and the potential of Lobito really lies. Thank you. Over to you, Pauline.
Thank you so much, Bart, for wrapping it up very nicely. So from the chat, I can already see that there's a lot of interest in continuing those conversations, right? And so we were thinking, how can we take advantage of this momentum? Well, we know it's the summer month, but still, we still think there's some people around, right? So we would like you to invite you very welcome to join our upcoming summer workshops that we're gonna hold over July and August. So we have so far 3 workshops foreseen in different topics around the Lobito corridor and the obvet approach, of course. So we mentioned certification. Several people mentioned it. Angela said also recognize the importance of certification, but for the youth, right? We have a workshop on this, really also involving employers in this whole skill recognition system to explore how they can play a stronger role in defining and recognizing skills. That's the first one on the 9th of July. On the 11th of July, and Manuel as well, thank you for raising the question of gender. We will have a session on especially dedicated to gender and inclusion in the Lobito corridor with our dear friends from GIZ. And then finally, on the 25th of August, we're going to have a session on Sustainable Mining Livelihood Fund. So with our colleagues from CSR Europe, who are also involved in the Lobito Connect project. So it's really how do we tackle this more systemic question of how do we move from individual initiatives to a more of a ecosystem impact from the companies, suppliers, local communities, and so on. They all have the same challenges. We've seen that. How can we really move towards an ecosystem impact? And so we'll discuss the idea of this mining livelihood investment fund as a way to really pull these efforts and increase collective impact. So those are all the 3 workshops that are planned now. I published the link in the comments if you want to register already. but you'll be informed, of course, if you've subscribed to a newsletter, but also in the follow-up email to this webinar, you'll be informed of this. You'll also get the presentation to this webinar as well. For these workshops, it's really about hands-on discussion, collaborative, so you'll really be able to contribute a lot. It's not a webinar as such, it's really a workshop to really involve all of you. Voilà, that was it for us today. Big thank you to all of you for joining today. I think it was a very insightful discussion. Thank you to our dear panelists. Thank you as well to François and Gédéon for presenting before that. So yes, again, you're very welcome to also follow us on LinkedIn, register to a newsletter, and find more information on Capacity for Dev. We also have developed an OpVet training module. You can directly click on the link, I think, if you want to learn more about our OpVet approach. Yes, your feedback is very, very valuable as well to help us improve. So if you can take not even 5 minutes, just 1 minute, 30 seconds, if you're very efficient, to fill in this short survey that should appear on your screen after you close this meeting. Thank you again to all of you. I wish you very nice afternoon, end of your day. And then we will see each other next time. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Muito obrigada.
Thank you.
Obrigada pela
Bye-bye.
participação.
Au revoir.
Thank you, our translator.
Obrigado.
Bom dia.
Obrigado.